get this, and it will be done. So that's why we decided that these seeds of solidarity for Venezuela campaign is something that we can actually take on with all of our hearts. It is something that has to do with the fundamental right to survive, to eat, to be fed, and to survive. And this is why we actually are launching this campaign officially today, even though we already did a shipment 2 months ago, August, was it? In August, which was significant. And what's interesting is that it's significant that at that point we actually put together $500. And $500 of seed was something that was used very cleverly in the Lara state, where many of you visited. And this is how we can continue with people-to-people solidarity. It is not that we are not necessarily recognizing the role of the state and the revolutionary process, is that we are doing this directly. Well, there was not in the beginning, there was a problem with the seeds being actually stopped by customs. So even though we had a letter from the local consulate here, sorry, that is a mark. Right into the door, what happened? Okay, perfect. So can we have 3 people to go out and get the food from the market? He's stopped halfway, half block from here. Thank you.
Can this see us?
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, I was actually introducing you. I have already introduced you very clearly. I have said that you have been instrumental in this process, that you are acting as our liaison and our coordinator there, and also that you were aspiring to actually get us to move in the direction of providing people-to-people support with seeds. So you can actually go ahead now and just say your piece. Thank you.
Okay, well, hello to everybody. It's great to see everybody out there. I see some faces I recognize. Wonderful to see you. Maybe you want to put me a little bit in context. I don't know what you've talked about yet or what maybe kind of got into what you want me to speak to a little bit.
I have already introduced people to the shipment that we made to Venezuela and how it was used there. That was our first attempt, but this is our official launch of the campaign, and we expect to actually make it grow so that it actually is even more inviting. But I think that it would be good if you talk about the efforts that are being made for food sovereignty very clearly like that at this moment in Venezuela.
Okay, well, again, it's so good to see folks who are just down there. So I'll turn to you when you can feel free to jump in and add anything you want. And I know several of you others have been to Venezuela probably. So again, thank you so much for your solidarity. It's incredible. I think we never really imagined that we maybe be at this moment in Venezuela, and yet even in spite of the crisis that we're going through in Venezuela, the tremendous food crisis, it's opened the door, I think, to some amazing initiatives that are good for Venezuela, that are good for Latin America, that are good for our planet, which is returning to understanding the source of our food and try to, as much as possible, obtain local sources of food. So I'm sure many of you are aware, just a really brief kind of backdrop for our crisis. It's tremendously complex. I'm not going to try to address all the causes. But even if we just want to look at the situation of oil in of itself, Venezuela is such an oil-dependent country, which made it an import-dependent country. As much as President Chavez had really clear views of the need to be food sovereign, it's a little bit hard when you're trying so quickly to bring a country up to par with education, with healthcare, with housing. And so much of the emphasis on the abundance of resources that came into Venezuela over 10 and 12 years were really focused on those really critical, necessary parts of society, such as healthcare and education. And so it's now when we're in such a pinch due to so many factors, an economic war against Venezuela, plummeting prices of oil, that we realize we can no longer just simply import food. And it takes a long time for a nation to shift gears. It's kind of like saying here all of a sudden, in the U.S., let's pretty much depend only on local food, and it's a great concept. So many people believe in it, and yet to get to that point of making that possible is a huge challenge. But I'm pretty shocked at the enthusiasm on the part of Venezuelans to really both want to participate directly, want to support the growth of local food. And so we recently had a delegation, and Simone and Alejandro with you can share some of that. But there's a real effort on the part of people both in the city, in the suburbs, and small towns to grow as much food as possible. I've been fortunate to have I have a place up in the mountains of the state of Lara, and yet it was a very small village where people were really not so much growing their food. They were working in big monoculture. They were working in potato fields or working growing coffee. And so it's people come to re-embrace what we call the Faluco. The Faluco is the Venezuelan term for the small traditional farm that maybe today is kind of called permaculture. The idea that every family can grow a certain portion of their food, or every community by really using their land, their resources as well as possible. And so it's kind of an exciting moment to see this whole concept. It's a re-embracing of the political, of that whole traditional Venezuelan concept, combined with a lot of new things that people are learning throughout the world about how to more intensely gain food from our land while respecting and putting back into the land all that the land needs. So I can share a little bit about what we did at Sergio, and many of you were part of sending seeds down in August. I took 600 some packages of seeds to Venezuela, and it was a great opening of the doors to many different groups who are beginning to plant and are wanting to learn about that. We were able to share seeds both with some small agricultural cooperatives that exist, such as up in Montecarmelo, but also in urban areas, such as in Caracas, and we're really delighted to see even situations where teenagers are very interested in the smallest part of their homes in barrios of learning how to plant. We also have a really great group of children. It's called Club Coloco Colibri, which means kind of like a ragtag 4-H club. I would say it's a group of young kids from our village who love the land, but many of them really didn't have their own land, neighbors on the potato farms, and they brought to me the idea. He said, let's try to see if we could, grow food. I would always be planting fruit trees. And one young girl named Bobby said, Lisa, can we plant something that the turnaround time is a little bit faster than a mango tree that takes like 8 years to get mango? So I said, okay. And the next thing I knew, she showed up and was driving a sack of goat manure from the hills and some bamboo to build raised beds. And so with these group of children, these great group of kids who are just so motivated, we started experimenting and making raised beds, and then we started investigating ways when the land was dry to do things like something called African keyhole garden, and then we learned about this thing called the food, and just started experimenting with the kids. And so it's an incredible joy to give the children who know what hunger now looks like. The truth is in Venezuela, hunger is really knocking at our doorsteps, incredibly so. It's very painful to see. And so there's no need to convince these kids or their families that we need to grow as much as we can. And so we grow we meet Sundays, we grow with the kids, we plant and we harvest, and then every Monday we go to one of their houses and take our seeds and our tools and our planting at each different home. So it's just been an incredible learning experience for me. I'm not a farmer, or learning how to be a farmer, especially alongside of these children. And they have actually given workshops to adults, to teachers, to other community members. And so it's something that's wonderful to see really coming from the base, coming from children, coming from really the poorest of the poor, to realize we really need to find ways to source our food. So the incredible part about this Solidarity Seed Drive is that, like so many things that Venezuela has imported, there's not resources for seeds. Of course, we do a big focus on local seeds, and yet there's not that many of them. There's not been that many seeds available that are what we call heirloom seeds, or non-GMO seeds that we're sure they're going to be, produce more and more seeds. Venezuela, like many countries, has been a country that either imported or did monoculture. And so as much as they have a great new seed law, which is one of the most progressive seed laws really on the planet, that prohibits GMO seeds, that really promotes things such as seed banks in communities, that there's just a real lack of a whole beginning of a set of seeds. And so I think it's just an incredibly, really concrete way of being in solidarity with the community to send just a packet of seeds. And the people are very aware these seeds have come from, communities outside of Venezuela, communities that are in solidarity with us, who are trying to do something to deal with our problem. So much of the focus is on, from the media, the food lines, or the different political scenarios. But to tell you the truth, at this point, Venezuelans are really looking for alternatives. An alternative society, a society that depends a lot on barter, on community. And I think they're kind of models that, who knows, within the world, we need to look at these kind of models as well. So it's just incredible to see how that model, we can help that model by sharing seeds. And many people reach out to many people are gardeners, some people aren't gardeners, don't know anything about seeds. But just that very concrete act of donating an act of seeds is pretty incredible. Way being in solidarity with the people of Venezuela. So that's a very broad stroke. Maybe it would be good to take some questions so that I could direct a little bit better what you might want to hear about what's happening in Venezuela.
Okay. Let's go with our questions now. Isn't there a connection with the university too? Ask one person here. Yeah.
Also, are you planning to replicate what's going on in your particular area in Lara, in other areas in the state of Lara, and into other states?
Are you planning to replicate what you're doing in Lara in other states? Any other questions? We have 2 questions. Okay, go ahead.
What was another question?
No, we actually collected 2 questions up to this point. Let's go ahead and address those.
Yeah, in terms of the university connection, National University, and they basically throughout the country are meeting with farmers and helping the farmers to kind of train other farmers and learn for themselves about, about growing food in difficult circumstances and small circumstances and with little water and what have you. And so I stayed close to about a third of the students went to this Campesino University, and we can continue to be in connection with them. And it's just a drop in the bucket again, the amount of seeds we brought. In terms of replicating what we're doing, that's exactly our hope, is to replicate the kind of experience that we've had in our community. People there in your audience, Steve and Arsha, were part of a really great event in Multicomit. It was called National Seed Day, which to most people must sound like really boring, like really a National Seed Day. But today in Venezuela, seeds are like rock stars. I mean, people are realizing the value of diversified seeds. It's the, what do you call it? It's the guarantee to our future, really, to have a set of diverse seeds that we can guarantee food and food production, and not be dependent on these mega big companies that are eventually going to starve us because they take over, the source of the world's food. And so this National Seed Day is really pretty amazing because hundreds of people come. A lot of them are young, a lot of them are kids, and many people are really excited about collecting seeds, like seeds that different kinds of dried bean seeds that their grandparents used, or that they're still grinding and throwing in the side of the garage, or they were not the super refined kind of seeds that are sold and packaged, and yet the diverse strain is really important to keep going. And so it was really beautiful to see musicians and artisans making things out of seeds, and people making all sorts of different dishes and all sorts of just really unique kind of seeds. And so we were able to read a statement. There was a conference in the name of the what you all are doing, the Solidarity Seed Drive, and a statement was written. I'm not sure if it was by Sergio or by Omar that we read. That was really beautiful to share with both the people from this community, for people throughout Venezuela who come to the seed conference, and even some from other parts of the world, from Africa, from Bolivia, from Peru. And people were very moved by the fact that communities in the U.S. are wanting to help very concretely to share their seeds. And so it was a really, I think, a really beautiful moment to see that. And it's really taking off the idea of setting up community seed banks and teaching the idea of doing small raised beds or permaculture, what have you. And Venezuela, we're fortunate. It's not like Boston. We can plant much of the year. There's really 2 seasons in which we can plant with the rain without having to water. But really, you can plant all year long. That's really a source of water because the climate is pretty much tropical year round. So that's a tremendous advantage to really getting groups going and getting people involved in planting. Although we kind of depend, we prefer to depend on the rains so that we don't have to have outside sources of water if possible. So we've just finished, we planted the seeds you all sent in September. I've got lots of pictures of tremendous harvest of lots of great vegetables just in the past week or so that the kids are harvesting. So
okay, so let's take 2 more questions. Luis.
What are some of the seeds that are the most, let's say, productive sort of, and what are the ones that are not really? You mentioned the mango, and what are the ones that you really getting your seeds out of?
What are the most productive seeds to actually work with there? Okay, that's one question. One more. One more question. That's it. Okay, well, there's another one here.
Where else in the United States, besides Boston, are doing the Seeds of Solidarity?
In the United States, is doing Seeds of Solidarity.
Or Canada?
Or Canada, or the continent.
In terms of what seeds are most productive, that's another advantage Venezuela has from really, really tropical and dry to high up in the Andes Mountains. And so really just about any kind of seeds that don't need seasons, I would say. But just about anything really, vegetables will grow there. Fruit is a different thing. Fruit has to be tropical fruit. But what we do pay attention to is that the seeds, there's many ways of grading seeds. Sometimes they're just called organic. Sometimes they're called, non-GMO, genetically modified seeds, make sure they're non-GMO. But the ideal kind of seeds is what we call heirloom seeds. Are any of you gardeners in this group? Raised in Nancy gardener? Okay. All right, then you gardeners, so there's seeds that have proven for generations to be true, to produce continually what that particular vegetable is, and to be delicious and to be nutritious. And so this last round we asked specifically for heirloom seeds, and it was a great thing to do because they did fantastically. So sometimes seeds are just marked organic. You're pretty clear that they're not going to be treated with chemicals or pesticides, but they may not reproduce seeds as well as those that are termed heirlooms. So that's kind of the preference. When heirloom seeds and heirloom seeds, there's hundreds of kinds of heirloom seeds. There's dozens of kinds of bean seeds and tomato seeds and lettuce seeds and kale seeds that are heirloom. It's a very wide variety, and most of the seeds we get through online. There's great organizations actually that are seed saving organizations and do great things with the seeds. And so that's another thing to share, through what group we can order seeds. The question about where else, we had a delegation come through in May, and a member of what's called the Loretto community. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. It's a group of Catholic sisters, but that are very open, and so they have many lay people and people who are not known as part of their community. They kind of fell in love with the project with the children who are planting and the women, and they did a huge seed drive. And think of it, in my room, I think I have about another, believe it or not, 1,000 packages of seeds that they sent. But they sent word out to their different members, and so those seeds came in from around the U.S. I think. But again, 1,000 seeds, that's great, and we could use thousands more. So but it's exciting. People are really like to do something that concrete. So many people sent me seeds, and some people sent funds for seeds. Both ways. And again, it just means so much because as we share the seeds with others, we tell them where they're coming from. And I want to say, just as in the U.S., there's a real kind of warped view of what's happening in Venezuela. In Venezuela, there's not a lot of real understanding of the United States as well. I think particularly President Chavez is really good about very much holding up community organizations in the U.S. and people-to-people solidarity in the U.S. And I think some of that has followed through a little bit. And so I think this particular campaign or ability to have people share solidarity seeds is something that just goes right to people's hearts, because that's pretty much all we're thinking about right now. That's just how do we feed our population? How do we feed our families? And so I can't think of anything more directly to be in solidarity than to share seeds so that people can source food themselves.
Okay, one last question. We are running on time. I'm so proud of ourselves. 10 p.m. One more question, last one there. What?
You said hunger is knocking at our door. Can you give us some more details about it, any specifics? Hunger is not...
Could you repeat that?
I will repeat it. It's about your statement about hunger knocking at our doors. He would like to have a bit more of meat to that statement. More explanation.
Okay, the truth is, hunger is knocking at the doors and visiting many communities in Venezuela. It's a complex, and I don't know if that's part of what you're going to look at, as a solidarity group. It's a complex set of factors, as I said before. A society that had very much depended on imports because we had oil dollars that had really used so much of our resources for what we saw as urgent to the moment, such as education. We begin the country with the 5th highest college enrollment per capita in the world, and free healthcare, and built enough homes for about a fourth of the population. So a lot of the resources went into what felt like immediate needs, whereas perhaps some of those resources should have been into guaranteeing more local food production in Venezuela and not dependence on imports. So we're learning that now as which comes through oil. Venezuela, 90% of its income comes through oil, which is another thing obviously to question, but that's been the fact, like, 100 years ago. And so as oil has plummeted, it was up to maybe $140 per barrel. Different times when Chavez is president, it's gone down to 23, and it costs $20 to produce a barrel of oil. So we're talking a $3 a barrel. It's a family that was making $100,000 and is now making $8,000 or something. So the country's resources have plummeted, and the infrastructure for producing really weren't set into place. And so there's a lot of things, being done, and I think initiatives of the government to try to deal with this. But in the meanwhile, there's a situation of tremendous food shortages. And, it's interesting. The poorest communities in some ways have a little more help than some of the other communities, because there's an organization called the CLAP, the Committees of Local Production and Abastecimiento, I guess, and Provision. And those are really reaching some of the many of the poor communities a little more quicker, which is, I guess, should be the case. But until the country really gains its footing again on being able to produce a much larger portion of its food, it's the issue of food security, the issue of feeding its population. It's a challenge. I mean, I would not be honest, I'd say that's not true. It's an enormous challenge. And it's again calling forth some really amazing initiatives that my guess is this happened also in Cuba, at different times. And so it may bring forth initiatives that are just going to be positive for the country overall. But meanwhile, it's going through very difficult times. The people.
Okay, Melissa Sullivan, thank you very much. Thank you for your guidance in this farming task, which most of us have no clue about. So it's great. We're going to leave the connection live. If you want to hear some of the rest of the event, we'll just take you out of the screen. Thank you. Okay. Bye. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now we are going to have a local group that actually was there just recently. And they're all here. Again, this is great to have you all. There are the names: Austria Kugel, Seymour Keller. How about the names with the accent? Emily Sedgwick and Bob Schwartz. So come over here, please. There are two mics, so you can divide up the stage. Can you put on the slideshow? There, here, we'll be all set.
Any chairs?
Yeah, there's chairs up there in the front.
Yep, you want a chair, make yourself comfortable. We don't have any wine, unfortunately.
Will you be my page turner?
So I'll just sit here and comment.
You just showed some pictures from the trip that Lisa was talking about.
I have two people.
Emily Sedgwick, Robin Schwartz, Seymour Keller.
We were on the delegation, the four of us. There are 8 people in all.
And the delegation was from 24 other days. Okay. For those of you that don't know, don't have complete Spanish, that's a play on words. It means plan for victory, right? That's the victorious here. And these are the Panchita girls. These are 4 of Lisa's girls there in the club. Panchita, which I always, in Central America, they call it maracuyá. Here we call it passion fruit. So anyway, that's Panchita girls. So next one, please. So I'll just show you where we went. So we started off in Caracas. This is a picture of northwestern Venezuela, right? And this is where the sweet crude comes from, right here, right? In that way. And so we started in Caracas, and we went to Barquisimeto, okay, which is the capital of the state of Lara, okay. And then we went down to Sanada, which I'll show you a little bit more of. And, that's where the Club Canuco is and all this stuff. Then, and you see that those are the Andes. Those are the Andes. That's where El Condor pasa. And if you go down all the way south of Chile and Argentina, you'll see the Andes there too. It's one America. And the Condor is flying over there too. And then we went back. across the mountains, it's the Cordillera that runs along the coast. And that's really an extension of the Andes. And then we went back to Caracas, so that was our trip. Next one, please. So that behind Caracas there is Abu. And we decided on the first day, so next one, please. We had to go up there.
Stay to the side.
Oh, sorry. So there's Lisa, you see our compañeros here, and that one, so. And then we had to rush down and get showers quickly, the next one, because we had to go to La Casa Maria in the center of Caracas and meet with Ricardo. And so in Caracas, we spent 3 days getting a political organization. We spoke to people in the government, such as Ricardo. Next one, please. And Charlie, that's Tulio, the second from the left. He's a very good, technical contact. So there we are in the Casa Maria. So we listened to the government people. And next one, please. And then we also met with, well, that's Judge Davis. And we had met him in 2013. He was robes on in the Supreme Court. Now he's retired. And that's General Rodriguez. He was in prison with Chavez. We had their views, and then we heard people from the opposition. We heard a lot of different people. The guy from the opposition sounded very reasonable until we started talking about loans from the International Monetary Fund. And we kind of got it to the ground. Okay, so now we're on to Barquisimeto, capital of Lara. And Lisa didn't tell you this, but she plays the cuatro. And she teaches at the 4 schools of thought. And she teaches kids how to play. And her partner, ladies, is an incredible musician. So they run this thing where they teach a lot of, in the barrio, like you see that, where they teach music, and they do other kinds of activities. And that's Canuco. And you make a please hit that's a link, hit the little thing, the purple thing. And so, just to show you. No, it's not being treated as a link. Okay. I was going to show you a few, the website of Canuco Colibri, but if you just Google it, you see dozens and dozens of pictures of what goes on. So as Lisa said, Canuco is a small farm. Colibri, what's a colibri? A hummingbird. Same.
And that's her property. That's Lisa's property.
Next one, please.
No, there.
So this is the club she was talking about, and we were there, with these kids. Quick story. After we did all this farming and planting and stuff, we had soup. Some of the things you do, you have soup. And let me tell you, those kids are hungry. Kids are hungry. You won't find any overweight kids. But next one, please. Oh yeah. Okay, so some more kids. Next one, please. So that's a lot of. That's your club. That's your club. I mean, let me just say, it's a wonderful place. It's absolutely wonderful. It's just incredibly beautiful. And it's all had, local material, no collisions. Anyway, with guava, wonderful taste that you eat. Next one, please. Okay, so Asha's going to tell this tale, right?
Oh, okay. So the colibri is a hummingbird, and Lisa named her property that because there's a tale in Venezuela that there's a hummingbird, there's a huge conflagration in the forest, all the animals ran out, everything was burning down, but a little hummingbird came and brought some water in its beak and tried to put out this raging fire with drops of water. So like every little step matters. So what they do when they get together is the little boy is flying. He's the hummingbird. And they fill his mouth with water, and he kind of dribbles it to his axis. And can you see on the floor, there's actually like a circle of water. So they do this as I don't know, it's fun. And you see Emily on the left there with the hat. Anyway, it's a charming story.
And if you show the next one, we'll show you that that's the building. And there is a foothills in the end. And it's being built. I mean, they're building more and more. So it's a wonderful place to stay. I'll show you some of the accommodations in case anyone was interested. Anyway, so now I want to talk about something that Lisa mentioned. And this is El Día de la Semilla Campesina, 29th of October. And this was established 11 years ago. It's held in a town near Senate in the state of Florida called Venezuela. Okay. So the next one, please. So there we are outside. There's a fence. And next one, please. And underneath, there's a tent. Okay. And lots of people trading seeds. Next one, please. It's a festival, right? That's what it looks like inside. There's hundreds and hundreds of stands. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. So every year, this is the 11th year, they're holding this
There was also music at the festival, local bands, sort of set up in the corner, just, providing a musical accompaniment to all the bartering and buying and selling. So it was really a festival atmosphere.
And in fact, afterwards in the Women's Museum, there was a ceremony, several hours. Next one, please. That's the Bard Laureate, and here we go. This was some wonderful poetry.
And that's a seed. They do art, so celebrating the seed. Do you see the one painting? Yeah. So there's all kinds of art throughout this hall celebrating the seed.
And that's the Minister of Education. So there were lots of talks. And, actually, Emily, if you're interested, Emily had some of this, right? So that was a good stuff.
I do.
So next one, please. Oh, okay. So this is something I wanted to mention. While we were there, one of the people who spoke was from Kenya. And Lisa was mentioning is that they had a preliminary meeting during this festival, and there were people from Latin America and Africa there. And so it says there that the 11th meeting, this was the 11th annual meeting, 11th annual festival. And they had a preliminary meeting of people from all over the world. And they're planning, because next year, on October 29th, they're going to have an international, in addition to this festival, they're going to have an international conference on eco-socialism. So yeah, you have some of those speeches too.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to, do you have a map?
Let's finish. Let's go.
No.
Yeah. So, if anybody's interested, and the best place to stay, of course, is Caroko Colibri.
Yeah.
The kids, go places.
Well, she doesn't really rent it out as a hotel. It's more to conferences.
Yeah, I'm sure you. Yeah.
Yeah, she made a point of that.
Yeah. But it would be a wonderful thing to twist around on to read up this socialist. Anyway, okay. Now we went to the house of a woman. That's Ashra sitting next to this picture of the home, and a woman named Gauri Garcia. We met that one Garcia and his mother and sister. Great job. Anyway, so Ashra, this is a poem. It was writing of this poem, which initiated this whole movement of the Compass of the Syrian Compass. Well, it certainly helped. Certainly for this festival in Monte Carmelo, it was this poem which declared. And Azra asked this Gaudi to read the poem. So the next one, please. That's Gaudi. And she's reading the poem without her eyeglasses. So she's not even with her eyeglasses. So what's wrong going right? And so there's only right that the sponsor is the type of maze.
Black and white sea. Cowboys.
So she read this poem, and so I asked Ashra to translate it. Next one, please. And so this was the declaration. It was written October 29th, 11 years ago. Okay. So
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's very hard to translate campesino. So is it a peasant? Is it a farmer? Is it an indigenous? Is it aboriginal seed? Is it, let's call it native seed or autochthonous seed? Right? It's hard to translate, so we kept it as campesino. But we campesino seeds at a meeting together with the men and women farmers of Monte Carlo declare that we have a nutritious health of our peoples. That for centuries we've filled stomachs, pockets, bags, sacks, and granaries, that we are part of the Venezuelan people because we're always together for breakfast, lunch, snacks, and suppers. That besides being food, we have medicine and happiness for campesinos and campesinas. Next one, please. And this is, we skipped a bunch. This is how it ends. That we campesino seeds
Along with men, women, girls, boys, adolescents, and youths, should be able to enjoy life in an environment contaminated by agricultural toxins and industrial wastes. To avoid by any means being displaced by transgenic and imported seeds. To be our authentic selves with our own flavor, color, and aroma. The seeds of Monte Carmelo, together with their hardworking friends, the faithful inhabitants of this settlement, declare today, the 29th of October, the day of the campesina seed, to be celebrated every year on the same date in all of Venezuela, and to be accorded the respect and appropriate honors that this memorable date represents for the Venezuelan people. On behalf of the campesina seeds, the Paspasa seed.
Okay, we're still running on time. We have 10 minutes for questions or more presentations. No?
Well, I don't have actually a presentation, but just one thing to add to what Seymour said. Robert and I and Nancy Cohn, who's here, also went to Venezuela 4 years ago on a trip organized by Global Exchange, so that we actually went to Sanare, the same town, not to Lisa's place, but we were right in the same town, and we were in Monte Carmelo. And we actually met Gaudi also 5 years ago. And my best memory from that, we had lunch with her at the Women's Cooperative. And when we first came in, there were about 12 of us, and there were several Venezuelan women kind of preparing for our lunch. And it never, we knew we were going to meet the famous Gaudi, but we didn't know which of the women she was. And, then all of a sudden this woman who had been kind of preparing the lunch kind of comes to the head of the table, and that was Gaudi. And it was just, that is so much like her. She was, she had started an agricultural cooperative way before Chavez. Like the activity in that area in Lara was so interesting because it wasn't started by Chavez. Chavez kind of came along when they already had a lot of agricultural cooperatives going, and the agricultural cooperatives started supporting him, but they said they've been around after him, and they are. So that was very exciting to see that was still going on, and the level of excitement, as Seymour was saying at the National Seed Day, was really, that reminded us of 5 years ago. On the other hand, there were things that were different. There weren't as many, like we had seen a lot of, middle-class kids, like kind of like radicals, like from the 60s type people who moved out to that area and had been, sort of instrumental in kind of building up a real movement in that area. And we don't know if those people were still there. We didn't see them. We know there's still a lot of stuff going on, but it seemed like the main thing that was enduring was the efforts around farming, which is basically what the lifeblood of Lara is. So it makes sense that would be continuing. But there were so many things that we wanted to know as far as like sort of ongoing activity in that area.
Questions? There were so many there are no questions. Excellent. Well, if we have a question, we have a question. That's fine. So, thank you very much for your presentation. All right. So now we're going to try to make connections with our local partners. We have Natasha Clayton here. No? She didn't make it? Okay. So, we are not going to make that connection. Unfortunately, we will continue to try to make that connection. We can guarantee you that we will pursue this like a dog, because it's very important. I think that they will be able to understand very clearly the meaning of these efforts. These efforts are revolutionary everywhere that they're being made in the world. So, because basically it means confronting the giant of who's got the monopoly for all food. So this is revolutionary. So let's talk about the concept of eco-socialism. This is actually interesting because as I was reading the seeds law, this is a concept that is actually incorporated clearly into the Venezuelan law. The concept of eco-socialism. Have no doubts that the right wing want to destroy this whole thing, basically because they hate this concept. Of course, they want to have competitive capitalist manipulation of food, and that's what it is. But eco-socialism is a different story. So we have our friend from New York City, Quincy Saul, to talk about this matter. Quincy.
Thank you. It's an honor. I'm actually from Vermont, to clarify. I'm a proud Vermonter, so I can't be identified with New York. Be out of the Yankee zone. I'm from Boston. Really good to see you all, and thank you for including me. Omar pulled a fast one and put me on the program before I was able to confirm, so I had to be here. Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. And it's really good to see as well. I saw some of you in Monte Carmelo when you read the declaration. I was on the other side of the room, and there were about 100 people packed in there, and I wanted to go talk to you, but then I had to go translate for the woman from Kenya, and we never, finally we're connected.
Oh, that was really the sunglasses.
No, that was Mario, but anyway, different guy. So it's really an honor to transmit the energy of Venezuela to you all. I think I'm really lucky everybody's laid all the foundations, so I can just draw the long-term political conclusions. Thank you. But it's really an honor to try to transmit what the energy of what's happening in Venezuela and this revolutionary process, and also this specific town of Monte Carmelo, which is has this history and this vibration and this extremely sophisticated history of struggle and leadership, which is difficult to transmit, but I'm really proud to be able to do it. There's some old Marxist theory about how the peasants could never organize themselves without the leadership of the industrial working class, and it's really that was never true. If it ever were true, you guys are really blowing it out of the water. So I'm honored to be able to share that. There's kind of two stories I'd like to tell. I'm going to start, there's sort of a big story, and then there's my story. The big story started about 5,000 years ago when the end of the Neolithic Revolution, when people started living in cities and patriarchy and slavery got started. And that's when we lost control of our food. People were concentrated in cities, the social surplus was being stored in a certain place, and we lost control of it. And that takes us all the way up until today, where we live in these cities. 50% of the world lives in these giant conglomerations, extremely vulnerable, and we're not even capable of producing. About 99%, say about 99% of the people in any given city are incapable of producing even 1% of what we put in our mouths. And that's why that's why we're in where we are right now. That's why we're talking about food sovereignty. It's a story that started 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. And it goes on into today, and it's a war. I think there's one thing that I learned from what's going on in Venezuela today. People are talking about the economic war, the media war, and the financial war. And we are at war right now, and one of the ways we're at war is in our consciousnesses, and the first thing they do is try to convince us that we're not at war, when really we are. And just a little piece of this, a paradox I've been pondering since I've gotten back. In Venezuela right now, as it's been said, it's really difficult to get processed foods of all kinds. All this, starches, flours, refined sugars, and a strange thing has happened. Everybody's healthier. Hunger is an issue, but I didn't see anybody starving. Everybody's lost weight. But it makes me wonder when I get back here and I see so much waste, who's having the food crisis here? Who's dying of diabetes, and who is reclaiming their ancestral root vegetables? In Venezuela right now, no fruit is rotting in the streets. I first went in 2009, and there was lots of fruit rotting in the streets. From the perspective of Monte Carmelo is this sort of hyper-radical, very advanced place, but from the perspective of people in Monte Carmelo, people are saying, like, thank God for the economic war. Now we're finding out who we really are. We're returning to our socio-productive essence. We're reclaiming our ancestral foods, and we're no longer depending on these foods that aren't produced here anyway. So I wanted to share that. That's a little piece of the puzzle of the big picture. But I've found that usually if you just talk about the big picture, sometimes it's hard for the individual to connect to it. So my story, it's not about me, but maybe it's an easier story to tell, is we, together with a couple crazy people in New York City in 2011, we got together and wanted to found an eco-socialist organization in the United States. And we were a bunch of locos who thought that eco-socialism was the most important idea in the world, and we're obviously totally insane. Except that in 2012, Venezuela, with Chavez's last 5-year plan, announced Venezuela, was going to launch a eco-socialist, socio-productive economic model, and they now have a Ministry of Eco-Socialism, 20 stories in downtown Caracas. Just to tell you really quickly, our organization does stuff like popular education. Here's a comic book we produced to try to educate, take these sort of often academic ideas about how capitalism relates to climate change and make a popular education tool for all ages. We have a radio show. You can learn more about it at ecosocialisthorizons.com. I'll pass this around. I'll give it to you for free digitally if you want. That's the other thing. I was going to show you stuff on, but the technology just gets in the way. So I have a flash drive with all kinds of stuff. If anybody wants to, or give me your email and we'll trade. So in 2011, we founded this organization. In 2012, in Monte Carmelo, about I think it was the 8th year of the Campesino Seed, they had a big gathering of about 8 countries, and they wrote this declaration about 4 days long. They wrote about 90 pages and stayed up all night and redacted it down to about 5. And this came to a document called the Monte Carmelo Declaration, which I found out online, and I was really moved by it. It read like a Zapatista communique, saying that because I last saw this guy in autonomous territory in Mozambique. It's poetic and specific. It's concrete and visionary, and moreover, it's a plan of action that the people of Monte Carmelo have been carrying out. One of the points that they said in 2012 is we're going to pass a national seed law for anti-GMO seeds, and they've done it. Here's the law. We'll get to that. But so this, I was amazed by this declaration. I was looking around for an English translation. I wrote to the email address at the bottom. I said, "Do you mind if I do an English translation?" And so we did this declaration. We translated it on our website. I recommend reading the Monte Carmelo Declaration, and it's full of questionable translations. Nola mentioned here, how do you translate conuco, right? There isn't really a good translation. In Mexico, they call it the milpa. In Argentina, the chacra. In Bolivia, the ayu. I think maybe the closest thing I would say is maybe the commons. Permaculture garden doesn't really quite capture it because it has to do with collective labor and collective ownership. It's not a privately owned plot. It has to do with intercropping. It's like a collective, several families would own one together. Anyway, there's some of them as a tangent, but I highly recommend this Monte Carmelo Declaration. Anyway, after translating that, and after, at that moment, we were the only eco-socialist organization in the US with a website, so we started getting in touch with different people in Venezuela. And I first went to Monte Carmelo in 2013, started to meet with people there. And first in 2013, then I went back again in 2015, which was, I went for the seed day, and right after the seed day, they all gathered together and made the plan on how they were going to march on Caracas right before the election to make sure this seed law got passed. It's a very intense political environment where small campesinos were confronting, ministers, and there was a lot of love and there was a lot of confrontation, and there was this political struggle. That was it's a beautiful, very marking experience for me. I'm going to pass this around too. This is the seed law, which is really, we can't do enough to promote this and remind people about this. It's not only the first anti-GMO seed law in the world, it's also anti-patent. And it was written totally by small farmers who did 3 years of assemblies around the country organized by bioregion. And the poor farmers wrote their own laws, and wrap our heads around that. And I think we need to I'm going to talk to Omar about it. I think we need to translate it and take it all over the world. We need to get a good translator who can deal with the legal terminology. I don't think I could handle it. So that we can, other group of people around the world who are also fighting Monsanto can take this tool that the Venezuelans have given to us. So around that time, after they had the seed day, they had the meeting to plan the march to Caracas. And the next day, another group of crazy people got together, myself and there were about 8 countries, about 50 people who've been doing international organizing of different kinds, had this crazy idea of maybe could we launch the first eco-socialist international in Venezuela? And they kind of like threw it out. We put up a sign, and I don't know what we really thought, and 50 people showed up from 8 countries. There was a lot of political will behind this idea. And the idea, to clarify, was not a conference, but an international, which sends us back into, you have to do the history lesson about the first international and the second and the third and the fourth and fifth, etc. There's a little history lesson we got to do there. I'm not going to go into in detail, but we can talk afterwards or if people have questions. And we got enough started, but we need a little more weight to it. So what we did this past year, there was an invitation that was put out called El Llamado de los Duendes, the calling of the spirits. And the idea was to invite some of the big movement leaders from around the world to help convoke the first Eco-Socialist International, because just a group of crazy people in Monte Carmelo might not be able to really bring those forces together. It needs to have some weight behind it. So our collective occupied ourselves with bringing international delegates. We brought these 2 women one woman from Kenya, one woman from Tanzania, also 2 people from Colombia. There was supposed to be a man from Sri Lanka in the Sarvodaya movement there, who's it's a disastrous story about visas, international travel that didn't work out. Another reason why we need the Socialist International to get rid of all these borders. But they brought their declaration of solidarity, and I'm doing a lot of work right now translating back and forth to get these communications going. So we had 4 days of meeting prior to the seed day that we were just talking about, and going over all the details of what it would take to found First Eco-Socialist International. What would it look like? Who's invited? Who's not invited? Because it's not just for anybody. We're trying to start define the point of a spiral so that we can go amplifying it. But you can't start with just everybody right away. You'll never get anywhere. And I was going to show you pictures, but I everybody here I can see memorizes everything, photographic memory, nobody's taking notes. But check out check out online. If you go to ecosocialisthorizons.com, or you can also find that other people are putting it on their websites too. There's a declaration which we produced at the end of these 4 days, which is called "The Cry of Mother Earth: Call to the First Eco-Socialist International." If anybody can actually find it on their phone, I could read a couple lines off of it. See if how the collective hive mind deals with that. It's one you can either go to ecosocialisthorizons.com, and then it's the first thing on there, or you can put in "The Cry of Mother Earth: Call to the First Eco-Socialist International." We spent a week translating that one. It was very poetic and written in campesino language. So that is going to be happening next year. It's going to be happening from October 31st to November 3rd of 2017 in Sanare. The group decided that Monte Carmelo would be too small on its own to host a gathering of several hundred people over 4 days. So it's going to be in Sanare with the 5 satellite villages of Monte Carmelo, Yai, Sabana Grande, Boho. Anyway, that's not really so important to the local level. But hopefully what we can think about doing, obviously the idea is not let's all go to Venezuela together. If it's really going to be the international, it has to be everywhere. So we can think about maybe in Boston having a synchronous event. That's something I'm trying to promote in the different regions where we do work. Try to have some event here sometime in that 3-4 day period, October 31st to November 3rd, to gather together and talk about this. What needs to be done from this perspective. Let's see, what else did I want to share before I go? Did anybody find this on their phone? Oh, look at this. Could you click on the next one up? And then there. This is some artwork. As we met, you saw one picture of the artwork on the wall. I pointed out when we first arrived, it was a blank room, and then it's just another beautiful thing about Monte Carmelo. Over 4 days, there was some nearby art gallery, and these artists just sort of independently brought all their art in and hung up into the art space. So scroll down a little bit. This is by that poet laureate. So the cry of Mother Earth for the ancestors who, with their lives and struggles, plowed the spirit and the strength of what we now call eco-socialism. Call to the First Eco-Socialist International, reweaving Pangea. Scroll down a little bit. I don't want you can read this on your own time, but I wanted to just highlight it there. Eco-socialism is one of the voices which responds to the cry of Mother Earth, one among many convocations which emerge from our territories. Eco-socialism is a calling in which many others are evoked and resound, one of the many ways to name the pain of Mother Earth, which claims us, names us, and challenges us to change. Thus we call upon ourselves to liberate Mother Earth and to liberate ourselves, to resist and overcome the social relations that destroy it, that deny and destroy us. Scroll down a little bit more. We seem possessed by the greatest absurdities. We assume that we are separate, distinct from nature. This project of death and arrogance makes us all accomplices. In reality, we have been exiled. We need to return, to reintegrate, to once again become daughters and sons of Mother Earth, to be inseparable and interwoven with her. We call upon ourselves to make this return to life a reality. So one of the things that was decided in this gathering is we're not looking for the people who would convoke and found the First Eco-Socialist International as plaintiff meetings wouldn't be the way, it wouldn't be affiliated by party. It wouldn't be like if you have an eco-socialist line, you can come and I mean that's the way we organize ourselves like that for a couple centuries now. So but we should laugh, I guess, because maybe it wasn't such a good idea. The criteria that are explained here is it's the people with practice who actually does something that's eco-socialist. And you could define that as not just farming, it could be culture, it could be education, it could be medicine, anything really fits under but it has to be based on practice. And the people who have done this, who are trying to return, to reintegrate, or who have never left, the indigenous peoples who have never been exiled from Mother Earth. That's the idea. I want to conclude here with, I'm not being videoed or anything, am I? I want to share with you, no? Yes. I am being videoed. We're broadcasting to just to Lisa though, right? To the world. To the world. Okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna do this anyway. I've got some illegal aliens here. I wanted to pass this around. I think this is something we need to have a mind shift around. This is the power of life. Seems very small, right? We think we're very powerful and superior. We have these giant buildings made out of glass and these fancy phones and technology. But this thing right here is capable of producing 48 or 50 more of them per column, right? And each one of those 48, 50 more, you need a mathematician to plot this out. So I'm going to pass this around and think about what's most important and think about Mother Earth. Because this is the call that responds to all of us. We're very alienated. We've been exiled. We live in these cities starting 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, and we need to reverse that trajectory. It's an ancestral calling. All of us in here have some indigenous ancestors, and how far you go back, who kept seeds. And I'm going to do a little thing I learned in Merida in the Tuareg barter network there, of exchanging seeds for the commitment to plant them. I'm not just going to give these away. I've tried that before and it never works. People just put them on their mantelpiece or they lose them or whatever. If you'd like a seed or two, some of you are farmers, come up to me afterwards and I'll take your name and address and I'll check in on you. Did you actually grow the seed? That's your invitation. To conclude, am I already out of time?
What are the seeds? What plants?
That's corn that I'm passing around. I've got some corn and beans. I've got a little bit. This is all from Monte Carmelo and Mexico, from the National Seed. Illegal aliens. So to conclude, I think we're all in sort of grand theoretical terms, but which are increasingly very practical. We're in this, what you could call a transition, an interregnum. The indigenous peoples of the Americas call it the Pachacuti. It's a period of upheaval and transition. In South Asia, they call it the age of Kali. And a lot of prophecies and different traditions have ideas about what we're going through right now. But we're really in this transitional moment where we have to, there's two outcomes. The world system, civilization as we know it, is ending. And you can see signs everywhere. Capitalism, as we know it, is sort of nation-state system established about 500 years ago. It's kind of complex. We can argue about the details, but it's a very specific mode of production. Is coming to an end for all kinds of reasons. What awaits us? There's two kind of clear options. One of them, amassing, over our shoulders, greater every minute, is the possibility of a kind of a faceless, invisible, unaccountable planetary dictatorship, which is dispenses genocide and slavery to all of our grandchildren, and promises starvation and scorched earth and forest fires and floods, and it's truly nightmarish, and it's getting stronger every day. That's one possible outcome, which could, sort of concretize itself over the next 50 years or so. The other option would be the coherence of the new mode of production. Would be all this stuff that we're talking about in Venezuela, but not just Venezuela, or Cuba, or Sri Lanka, Tanzania. It's happening all over the world. People are returning to something ancestral, and it's also something new. It's something they're doing in ways they haven't done before. And the coherence of that, the coalescence, the integration, the coordination of all these separate sites of production and resistance could be under the right conditions, the next world order or world disorder or unorder, however you want to think about it. And I think and hope that the First Eco-Socialist International could be one of our main tools to making that transition possible. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Great honor to be here, and thank you so much, Mark.
So we will allow 10 minutes for questions, and then we are actually, it's cool in the back. Then we're going to break out so we can eat and socialize, and we have some beautiful simple videos, music in the background, and we'll pick up the chairs and put them away, but people can socialize later. So questions now? Sign up sheet going on, contributions for more seeds, whatever, all that stuff. Okay, the ball is coming. The fundraising ball is coming. Put as much money as you can. John.
Your
curious, there is a crisis, a depolarization in Venezuela today. I guess, you read information here about people in dire hunger, I guess. Now, I remember when Cuba went through a similar experience around 95, which they got through. But just, there's physical conflict going on as well, I guess. So, a little more info on that, as well as the idea of if the right wing comes to power in Venezuela, what implications does that have for the eco-socialist projects there? I think a lot of the measures that have been taken could be reversed in a lot of ways, and I'd like to more of a discussion around the possible damage that they're going to be able to do if they do. I think it's likely that they will be able to hijack the government.
I could respond to that, but I'd love to hear more thoughts from everybody, and also if people want to ask the other people questions too.
I think it's important that we had or this movement from the university. The Universidad de Julia, Universidad de los Andes, Universidad de Mérida, Universidad Central de Venezuela. Do they have given any support or not? Or do they know?
The CJ, the international, in general, eco-socialism, or
This movement.
This movement.
I'm not,
No, because
this whole
Yep.
I have a question, and why Monte Carmelo? I've heard that there's some worker priest who was a mentor to Gandhi, and nobody's talked about him. I don't know too much about him.
Good question. Anybody else like launch into those, or I'll launch into those and interrupt me, and we can have discussion. We could have a seminar about any one of those questions all day, so this is necessarily brief and limited. But in terms of the question of hunger, I mean, like if you look at the media right now, it looks, just be frank, it looks like people are fighting over food in Venezuela, right? That's what it looks like. And I'm just going to give you anecdotes. Like Lisa Sullivan can give you much more detail. She lives there. I've been 4 times, and I've been twice in the last 2 years, but I go for about a month at a time. So I'm not the world-class expert on this, but I'll just tell you what I've seen. I was living across the street from the major wholesale market in Caracas, and every morning there's like 100 trucks full of food pulling into this market. So there's a big bullshit factor going on with everything that you read. It's a media war designed to confuse us about, some of the most important things that are happening in the world. People are fighting over food, and another thing. So I get up in the morning and I see 100 trucks lining up, and this is not processed food, mind you. These are like farmers markets. These are the conuqueros who are feeding the cities right now, the small farmers. Right? There's a whole theoretical debate. Can small farmers feed the city? And this debate has been answered in Venezuela. They are feeding the city. Even government bureaucrats are eating food of small farmers, right? Even the opposition, they're all eating ayama and lahe, and these kinds of food. There is an actual crisis happening. Again, it has to do. It's not that the media war is. It's not they're just making it up wholesale. That's the way lies work. They pick something that's true and they turn it into a big lie, right? So there is a food crisis. There were some excellent articles circulated around, in the lead up to this event. You can read. Lisa's written. William Kamakago has written some good articles about the origins of the food crisis 100 years ago when they discovered oil and started importing all their food. That's the origin of it, right? That's just a word. In terms of what's going to happen with the right wing in power, I think this is a question all over Latin America. I don't think you could look at it in isolation. We've got Trump in power in Argentina, basically. Macri is a pretty similar character. And Temer is also in Brazil, is also a pretty similar character to Trump. And it's not just this hemisphere. You talk about Modi, you talk about in India, you talk about Netanyahu. This is the corporate guys running the show, and that's the name of the game right now. They could take and they may take control of the state again. And I think that what this forces us to do as revolutionaries is to ask ourselves hard questions again about what is state power, what is the state. Some people say that if the right wing comes into power, it's the beginning of the end. And I think we have to ask, maybe it's the end of the beginning. Because, was this a, go back and read Marx on the Paris Commune, the goal was never the bourgeois state, the goal was never the colonial state. Chavez defied all the laws of history and took a colonial state and made it for the poor. How long can that go on? Maybe indefinitely, but it's, there's a reason it's not working out. The state is trying to be capitalist and socialist at the same time. And how that plays out, there's a lot of fantastic, noble people working as hard as they can every day. And so we'll see what happens. But I think that we can't place all our hopes in the state only. We have to look, the social movements are stronger than ever in Brazil, in Argentina, in Venezuela, and all these places.
Damage can make.
They can do all kinds of damage. Legally, they could actually, depending on the army, that's a tricky question. They could unleash a civil war in the country. Even that, up to that level, it's tricky. If they do that, there's trained militias all over the country of citizens, so that's not gonna. They're scared to open that door because it's a fight they probably lose. The struggle right now for the Venezuelan opposition is to destabilize the country as much as possible to try to justify a U.S. Intervention of some kind. Coming off, I didn't
Okay. Let's get it up so that we can socialize a bit. And keep it coming. Thank you. Because I am chair.
That's right.
425.
You can continue the conversation.